Let's have a conversation.
Thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm sure I'll see you at one of these events again
all
soon.
time, we got Mark with the Mindful Reality podcast, who I've been a guest on, and it was a blast.
Thank you for having me, honestly, and I cannot wait to do it again. We're going to do this again in the future. I just know it.
Good evening, depending on where you might be in the world. Welcome back. I'm back for my little mini break. I was off for a couple of days. Hi, Cass. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Debbie. The first day that I was off, I was like, man, there were points of the day where I said, I'm so used to doing these lives daily. But once I got into the second day, which was Saturday, I was like, it's okay right now. It's okay right now for me to be off because that's a lot of days in a row. And I don't plan on doing 100 again in a row, but I will be on frequently, especially throughout a Big Brother season. But now that the Big Brother season is off, I can exhale. I caught up on House of Villains. I still have to catch up on a lot of Big Brother Canada to catch up on. Not Big Brother Canada, Traders Canada. I caught up on Survivor. And I caught up on the challenge. I caught up on everything else that I was watching. Hi, Jay Daly. So, in the last episode of the challenge, I think it was either the last episode or maybe the one before, they showed 2 episodes last week in a row. So, we got on this famous topic of bullying on these TV shows. Now, I feel that this generation, and I'm not sure how old Berna is. I'm about to check actually before I even say this. So Berna is 33, so she's basically part of my era. So I don't know if this is a language barrier, or I don't know if the word was just being misused, but we're getting into this topic of bullying. So it showed this scene in the episode of the challenge where Berna was dancing by the pool, and then it showed Melissa and Big T. They were talking, and they were rolling their eyes, and they were laughing, and then she says, "Oh, I like to dance and I like to have a good time." She's saying this in the confessional. I like to dance and have a good time and enjoy myself. But then I look at the pool and I see that Big T and Melissa are making faces and laughing at me and mocking me, and they're bullying me. So she decides later to confront Melissa and say to Melissa that you were bullying me. Melissa gets really pissed. And Melissa's like, don't ever call me a bully because I was bullied in school. People used to regard me as one of the boys, basically, and tease me and bully me for that. So do not ever accuse me of being a bully. So later on, it shows that they had a conversation, I think maybe the next day, and they straightened it out where Berna was like, maybe bully was not the word that I wanted to use. Bully was not the word. I just thought that you were mocking me or whatever. And they seem to have squashed everything. However, she's good TV though. However, let's go into this. This season has seemed to be kind of a little bit on the sloppy side when it comes to the off-season stuff. So the challenge posted, before I even get into these screenshots, the challenge posted the clip of them arguing, and then people were responding underneath, and Kylan jumped into these responses. So Kylan says, it's hilarious when you realize they weren't even talking about her, meaning Melissa, at all. Well, they, meaning Melissa and Big T, weren't even talking about her at all in that moment that she's referring to. Oh, let me take this banner off. So it said, how would you, she responded, Berna responded to Kylan and said, how would you know? Like you weren't even there this very moment, but I'll give you your Superman moment. We will all see how wonderful of a Superman you are. So Kylan responds to Berna and says, you're speaking for others in this comment. You're just talking about positive things instead of negative things. So it's okay to speak for others or not. Kai, I wish you well for real, brother. Like I said, I hope you get better soon. Wish you most of luck. Close to God, far from me. Sheesh. I never heard that one before. Close to God, far from me. Since it's not aired yet, can't talk too much. You can have your opinion too, and always should have, even about me. But saying that half the cast or the production or the service queue said so and so is not just facts, is just not facts. Because people from those areas came and apologized to me for your behavior and saying those things for them. So my advice is you can think and feel whatever you want of me, and you might right or wrong, but I will speak up if you keep talking for other about my name. That's all. Mind your business, and that's fair. Okay. Hey, Melanie. I'm trying to figure that out. I'm trying to figure out if there's something wrong with him or if she was just saying that as a dig at him. Because based on the rest of the comments, it kind of looks like she was just taking a shot. So I actually wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit, but I overall wanted to talk about bullying in general and bullying on TV shows and what I think is bullying and what I don't think is bullying. So, in my own upbringing, a lot of you know I grew up in Canada. I lived there. I was born there and I lived there until I was about 15, 16. So I had 90% of my childhood was over there in Canada. And the demographics of the school that I was in, it was a predominantly white school. There was a few black people in there. There was a couple of Asians. There was a few Hispanic people in there, but it was mostly white. Generally, I didn't specifically get targeted because of race. That was just giving you some background. But I did get targeted or bullied or picked on for things such as not having the same name brand clothes or shoes as other people. I remember when I used to run around and I got holes in my pants, and my mom would, instead of getting me different pants, she would put patches on the pants. People would make fun of me for that. Like, why can't you just get new pants? Yeah, I was bullied. I was bullied sometimes physically. I was bullied sometimes verbally. And it was not considered bullying in the 90s, in the early mid 90s, late 90s. That stuff was not even considered bullying. That was just regular stuff that happens in school, rough housing, and at most somebody might get told to apologize. It wasn't bullying wasn't really a thing. Bullying was a thing, but bullying as we know it today, the things that people did during the days that I was in school would probably have them in juvie or something. But in my day, nothing. I don't even remember learning about what bullying was. Bullying was just a concept. Bullying was just a flat out a concept. So then I remember the early days when I started watching reality TV. I started watching Real World. I remember things happening in Real World that were definitely bullying, but to me at that time was just entertainment. An example, I remember when they had the first transgender on the Real World, and her name, I'm pretty sure it was Caitlyn. I'm pretty sure Caitlyn was the first one. And I remember they bullied her by being like, I don't want to be in the same room with her. I don't want to be in the bathroom with her. Kind of isolating her, making funny comments. I consider that as bullying. Now, another situation I can think of is on the challenge. I remember Cara Maria. I remember some mean girls kind of formed together, and they were just doing the same kind of thing. They were talking negatively about her and saying she's weird. I remember Wes even, which I saw them have some live maybe a couple years ago where he apologized. But I remember he poured a soda on her head, and he was like, nobody likes you and nobody wants you here. And I remember a lot of clear bullying things that happened. New York, who we were talking about on my Discord, I remember that a lot of the girls on I Love New York used to gang up on New York and say, you look like a man, you look like a transvestite, nobody likes you and nobody wants you here. She got spit on in her face. I'm not saying that New York was the easiest to get along with either, but it was a group of people formed against her that just hated her for who she is and targeted her and did things to her that were not happening to everybody else. Today, when they use the word bully, I just don't understand what's happening half the time. Two people could get into an argument. They each have their reasons for being in that argument. They each say negative, nasty things to each other in that argument. But then one of them calls the other one a bully. And I'm like, I can understand if one person is clearly targeting the other. One person is coming at the other person. One person is targeting the other person and trying to intimidate them, degrade them, whatever, and they're responding to it in kind. Then I would say, yes, it's not a mutual thing and you're being targeted. So I'm not considering it just an argument. I'm considering one person bullying the other. Apparently she was dancing with a speaker in her hand and Reese told her to stop because she could fall in and electrocute her friends. When I read Nuri's. I gotta look on her Instagram. I gotta look on her Instagram. I have not really. I think I follow her on Instagram, but I haven't really looked at it this season. I remember in Vendettas. I remember that too. Brittany, Kayla, Jemmy kept being rude and threw all her clothes out her suitcase over the banister. Yeah, I remember that. All because she kissed Bananas earlier in the season and they attacked her saying she hurt Natalie, who was showmancing with him at the time. Yeah, bullying was a really common thing on earlier seasons of these reality TV shows. But I feel like people, something I don't like is when people take things and put titles and labels on them that are not accurate. So I don't know if other things were happening behind the scenes or if there were other things that were not shown. This is the what I would say is a little bit of the disadvantage of most shows versus a Big Brother. Despite the fact that they do cut things out of feeds, there are context clues that we miss, and there's certain bridging pieces of certain things that we miss. We still see more on a Big Brother's coverage because of live feeds than any of these other shows. They're 100% produced. A 1 hour episode could be 2-3 days worth of content squeezed into an hour or an hour and a half. So we're seeing whatever they choose for us to see. So that's the thing about these he said, she said arguments that they always have on the challenge specifically. We don't know. We can only go by the context of what we've seen. But one thing that I will say to all of you is that you know that I follow Wes on his Patreon, and when he does his breakdowns and when he does his recaps, he has always said that in 20 plus years in the business for him, that he generally finds the challenge edits to be fair. He said, yeah, you can miss certain pieces of a conversation, but they generally give you an accurate depiction of the context of what was happening. Jemmy, however you spell it, said that it wasn't bullying because bullying is when an innocent yeah, she doesn't. That's a whole different era and a whole different thing. That was the bully era. There was a bully era of reality TV where bullying was allowed, and that was because it was all about entertainment and things like social media didn't come into play. So to give you an example of how warped I think this bullying goalpost has gotten, people on the Big Brother season were saying that Cameron was bullied. And I was like, bullied? How? Because at a certain point when his numbers were gone, the remaining people were not sipping the Kool-Aid because they were targeting him, because they ran mixed signals between him and his closest ally. I wouldn't call that bullying. When Jag said that he was bullied, I was like, bullied how? Because he was at the bottom of some of these alliances, because they got him to do things in a kind of a manipulating way. But he also did that for many other people, and that's how he won. So I'm like, that's not really bullying. That's just playing the game. I don't think Berna was bullied, first of all. Just based on the different accounts that I've seen, typically when somebody says something, the only way that we can have any kind of idea, if they say something that's not really what we're seeing on the screen, The only way that we can have any idea if that's true or not, if it's not a show that has live feeds, is by what the rest of the cast is saying. So if a bunch of cast was like, oh yeah, Big T and Melissa were bullies and they were bullying Berna, blah, 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 and they jumped on the post and they were defending Berna, then I would say, okay, a bunch of the cast that was there says that this is true. But I have not seen anybody do that. So there's nothing that would lead me to believe that she was actually being bullied, and it seems just more like maybe a little bit of paranoia and a little bit of moving the goalpost on what is considered bullying. Yeah, that's the whole thing. You can bully a bully. You can bully a bully. Self-defense, that's another story. Self-defense when somebody is bullying you, I'm all for that. I'm all for that when you're being bullied, picked on, backed into a corner, and you're defending yourself. But if you're looking at someone and saying, this person is a bully, so I'm going to become a bully to hurt the bully. Two wrongs don't make a right. Absolutely not. That's what I was going to ask next, Mark. If anyone else had a story to back that up. No, I have yet to see anybody jump in there, and I've heard people backing up Melissa. I haven't really heard anyone backing up Kylan, but that's neither here nor there because he wasn't the one in that position. But I heard people backing up Melissa and saying that Berna was accusing a lot of the cast of bullying her, isolating her, and all of that. One thing that I would say that does happen on the shows, but it's just an obvious thing that is going to happen. On a previous day challenge, and one previous day, I mean probably 2010 or earlier for the challenge. All the cast lives in different places. Some people live in Texas, some people live in California, some people are in New York, some people are in Kansas City, some people are in wherever. So they're only really seeing each other and speaking to each other when the season is going, aside from if they were really close friends and call each other on the phone. But in the present day challenge, with the social media era, and with all these different events that they do in all these different places, and with the fact that a lot of them are social media influencers, a lot of them are friends. That's the other part. A lot of them are actually friends in the off season. Like I told y'all, I just saw Raven and Olivia and Michelle here in New York. Nerese and Olivia were on like a challenge. They were on 3 or 4 different Challenge Mania events in various different states. Berna is back home. Some of these people live back home, Romania, England, so they're not actually connected with these other people who see each other several times in between challenges and have these close friendships. So you're coming onto a show with a bunch of people who are already bonded, and you're kind of an outlier because it's just her and what's his name? I can never remember this guy's name. The guy that Tori hooked up with that one season. So it's just kind of the natural selection of things. I have been in those types of spots too, on both sides of that. The side where I know the people, but the side where I'm not with the clique. I wouldn't necessarily call that bullying either, though. Like, not including someone is not nice, but I wouldn't necessarily call that bullying either. Oh, yeah. Mustache man. Emmanuel, thank you. But I like Mustache man better. Yeah, I didn't even read your comment, but that's exactly what I was saying. Isolation is not the same thing as bullying. And that's the thing. Bowie called it bullying. And I'm like, they said Cam was bullied, Bowie was bullied, Jag was bullied, Taylor was bullied. That was clear. We saw that. She got screamed on and called the B word. Her words were misconstrued. They made a whole group. It wasn't gameplay. They made a whole group based on personal reasons and did not include her and Brittany. Brittany caught a straight, pretty honestly. That was probably even almost worse than Taylor not being included, because Brittany didn't do anything to them. They were just like, you're not girly enough of a girl to be in this group. Now that's all I'm going to see every time I see him, Lisa. I can't wait for this week's episode, by the way, because this week's episode is the return of the legends. I don't know if they're all going to come out or they're going to show some of them, but it doesn't seem like this season is a, what's it called? Battle of the Champs, I think it was. I forgot what it was called, but whatever season that was, where the champs actually had a chance to get into the house, it's going to be a season where the champs are just going to be there to be involved, kind of like Mercenaries, when they had the season with Mercenaries, where you had to beat them in the eliminations, but they were not coming in the house, but you had to beat one of them. Cam was on that season. Cam took out like 2-3 vets to get to the final, and that was her rookie season. That was when the legend of Killer Cam came into play. I wish Cam would go back on a challenge, but now it's looking very unlikely unless Challenge All-Stars still exists after they have their second baby. Congratulations to her, by the way. She's pregnant with her and Leroy's second child. I enjoy seeing their updates on Instagram. Absolutely, that was awful. Sorry, Cass. I couldn't stand those girls during that period. Paloma looked unhinged. I know. And this is my gripe, Lisa. This is my gripe that I always have with the way people use words. If I have something that irritates me, I don't get irritated by whether people are abbreviating the words there and there. You know what I mean? That doesn't even annoy me. Your, the ways that you can spell it, and people misusing that stuff and spelling. I don't care about that. What I care about is when people don't even know the core definition of a word and what it means. And they'll say to you, if you're disputing this, they're like, are you trying to tell me that it's not mean to say such and such about a person behind their back? And I'm like, if I call somebody stupid behind their back, it's mean that I called them stupid behind their back, but how is that bullying? It's not. And that's the other thing. Not straight to bully or sociopath or toxic. Toxic. It's going to be something substantial before I say that somebody is toxic, especially when I'm watching a competition show environment. Context, 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 context. When I told everyone on here that I spoke to Amira at the Big Brother premiere, and her answers did not give, or nothing she really said to me then gave like nasty, toxic, mean, nasty person. People were like, oh no, but this and this and this happened. You can do things that are mean. You could do things that are wrong on a show and still not be that person also. That's the other part of it. She took out Tori Ashley. I think she took out, I almost want to say, Veronica, but I'm going to look that up. I think the show will get better when the legends come in the house. It will add spice to the cast. Oh yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm waiting for that. Facts, Lisa. Baby number 2, that's amazing. Yes. And it's amazing looking at Cam and Leroy's history, because I remember Cam and Leroy were together early on. I think that they were together in Cam's first season. And then they broke up. He got with a couple of other people in between. She had got with some other people in between. I don't think challenge people she was with, but she was with other people in between. And then they had a kind of a nasty little argument in one of the reunions where he said that it was a mistake being with her. And then they ended up getting back together and they got married, and now they seem really happy. Mom might be listening. And Narcissist, people love that one too. And the funny thing with Narcissist is narcissists call other people narcissists. You know how many times I've seen that, where somebody who gives so much narcissistic traits goes down a rabbit hole of looking up all of what a narcissist is, and doesn't see any of that in themselves and sees it in everybody else. To me, that is one of the biggest narcissistic tendencies. To see all those traits in everybody else and not to see it in themselves. All the phobics, homophobic, transphobic. I spoke about that one before. I'm like, if you're going to say something, just please make sure that it matches the definition. And the other thing is, you can check a couple of boxes in a category. Anybody can. I can say something right now that would be culturally insensitive, gender insensitive, sexuality insensitive, whatever it is. I could say something right now, and it could just be I wasn't thinking of it that way. It could be because I didn't understand that it would be offensive to somebody. It could be for any one of those reasons. But what the cancel culture will do immediately, take that thing and say, Mark said this. So immediately, because you heard me say that thing that falls under that category, it's not like you have to hear a bunch of things over a course of time. Everything that you've heard me say up to that point could be in support of whatever it is, that group or that person. And then you hear one instance where I make a mistake. And you're like, Let's bang the gavel on this guy. And that's what they do. That's what they do, especially with these TV shows that we follow. That's exactly what they do. That's exactly what they do. Like a Big Brother is the worst with it because we hear the most conversations. So we could hear people talking 24 hours a day for 4 weeks. And in one 5-minute period of all these hours of conversations that we hear them have, they say one thing and you're like, oh, that was sexist. This person is a misogynist. Or they could be saying something that sounds a certain way. It could be for any number of reasons. It could be because of the type of upbringing that they had. It could be, the people that were around them, the things that they've heard before. It could be things that have become intrinsic values, but doesn't mean that you throw the person away. You drop the label on them and you just throw them away like this person is trash. I don't do that. I give people the opportunity. I always have to know intent first. I feel like I'm more level-headed than the average person because I've heard people say things before where they'll come to me about, oh, did you hear what this person said? Or did you hear what that person said? They're this. And I'm like, what was the context of the conversation? You're giving me the quote, but what was the context of the conversation? What was being spoken about leading up to it? What was the emotional state of the parties involved? I just like to know all the details. One of my friends said something that I keep using that I really liked, where they were like, I like to use a sliding scale in life. That's so funny and not funny at all. A person's view will change also depending. You know what? That's another thing that drives me so crazy. This is the other thing that drives me so crazy with fans. This is something that drives me crazy with fans. There will be two people on a show. And one person they really like for whatever reason. Let's say that person resonates with them. Let's say that person has characteristics that they like. Let's say they see some of themselves in that person. Maybe that person has some kind of story that they can relate to. And they love that person as a fan. Nothing wrong with that. They'll see somebody else that reminds them of an ex-boyfriend and ex-girlfriend. That person reminds them of one of their bosses that they used to work for. That person is just a trigger person for them, is what I'm trying to say. So this is the one they like. This is the one they don't like. They can both say the same thing. If the one that they like says it, they're like, oh, they didn't mean it that way. You didn't understand the context. You don't know what the whole conversation was about and what they were talking about before then and what happened leading up to it. But if it's the person that they do like, and if it's the person that they don't like, oh, this person is whatever. Racist, sexist, narcissist, whatever it is. Whatever they're labeling them with. Yes, Cass, 100%. Good afternoon, Ed. Yeah, the viewpoint of the fan or the person who is watching them shifts based on whether they like that person or whether they don't like that person. I always call everything down the middle. And funny enough, sometimes people don't like that. I'm okay. Somebody once told me, the truth is the truth. And if you tell the truth, you don't have to change your story. So if somebody came to me and said, Mark, you said this and this and this, even if I might not remember saying it, I know what I think about that person or situation. So I would remember if it is something I would say or if it's something I wouldn't say, because I'm just going to say how I feel about that. And how I feel about it is not going to change unless somebody presents me with some kind of factual evidence that shows me that I was wrong, in which case I'll just say that I was wrong. For the last 20 years, I have a friend who is exactly like that. Never makes any sense, and she gets mad. A pet peeve of mine. A pet peeve of mine is a friend who thinks that support is unconditional agreement. A pet peeve of mine is a friend who thinks that support is unconditional agreement. And I have had friends like that. I still kind of know people like that. Less than before, but I think that the best way that you can support somebody is to be someone who will always advocate for them, but you will tell them whether you think they were right or wrong. That's why a lot of people don't come to me with their problems. I mean, a lot of people do, obviously. I'm a counselor as a profession, and also people tend to just come to me with their problems, but a lot of people don't. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for somebody to just give you the green light, that person was wrong and you're right. What do you want me to do, friend? Blah, blah, blah. If you want that person, I'm not that person. If you say, I'm so mad at this and this person for whatever, they said this, the first thing that I'm going to say, and maybe it's just, my counseling background that makes me do this, but the first thing I'm going to say is, okay, let's slow down and give me some details. How did this argument start? What is the history of your relationship? What happened leading up to the point of them saying whatever? And honestly, typically, when you walk through all those steps, you'll find, even though this thing was wrong for them to say, there were multiple little pieces along the way where getting to this point could have been prevented. I'm just getting here, but this seems like a very interesting topic. Me neither. And some people don't like that, but they have to get over it. This is something I'm going to say that I have realized too in doing coverage. Last year, I considered changing the way that I do coverage because of the people that were coming for me. But now, I'm like, even those times where I questioned whether I was doing anything wrong with my coverage, I wasn't. I wasn't doing anything wrong with my coverage. And I'm not saying that every opinion that I have is right. I just have opinions. I'm just a fan who watches things from a distance. And I've always said this. Unless I personally know this cast member, there's somebody that I speak to, and there's somebody who has filled in the blanks for me. I can't vouch for them. And even if they are somebody that I'm friends with, the only way that I can say with certainty, I know 1,000% this is what happened, is if I saw the footage. The only way that I can say even 95% that I'm pretty sure this is what happened is if I could speak to each person. Because even in a mediation thing at work, which I have now been in many of, as some of y'all know, when you make that report to HR, they don't just listen to what you say and act accordingly. What they do is they have a whole conversation with you, take down notes of what you said. They'll have a whole separate conversation from the person that you are having the dispute with. They will say, this and this and this was said. What is your rebuttal? In some cases, if there's mutual parties that were involved in any of those incidents, they'll get the other parties kind of neutral opinions on whatever the situation was. And then the mediator will take everything. They'll take everything into account and say, based on this conversation, the accusation, the defense, and all the supporting witnesses that I have gathered all together, this is what I conclude is the most likely thing that happened. Aside from that, everybody has their perspectives on things. There's times where myself and other people have been in the exact same spot and experienced the exact same thing. And the way that they would explain it and the way that I would explain it, radically different. Radically different. It's okay to laugh at ridiculous accusations. At least I think it is. It's hard. It's hard sometimes. Like the one go-to accusation, or I don't know if I will call this an accusation, but you know, last year, the one thing that I had a hard time shaking at that time was people saying that I was aiming to sabotage that Big Brother relationship. And then also saying strange things about me at the event. So I was just like, where is this coming from? Because none of my things that I say are really attacks on anybody. Me saying I don't like watching Corey and America kissing on the feeds, like I'm not in love with this showmance. That doesn't mean that I don't want their relationship to succeed. If it works for them, do you. I don't have any reason to hate either of them. Here's another thing with me. I can consider somebody a villain on a show and have a separation between hating them on a show as their character versus just hating them, period. There's a thin line, I feel, nowadays between the reality world and the real world. I think that when reality TV first started, we were so much less connected with it. There was no Instagram. There was no smartphones. There was no Facebook. There was no Reddit. There was no way to communicate with these people. There was no way to see their side. The only way that we saw their side, for the most part, was when they had reunion episodes. We'd watch the show. They would clip whatever they want to show us in the reunion episode, and that's how we saw what people think. Now, we get what people think the same day as the episode, because the episode will drop, and then somebody will drop a podcast. Oh, if you want to hear more context about what happened here, check my podcasts, and then fans will watch the podcast. They'll say, hey, Berna, Melissa said this and this and this on her podcast about you. Berna will put a tweet out, or whatever you call it, an X. I don't know what you call it. Is it still a tweet? I don't know. Berna will put a tweet out saying, oh, Melissa said this, but this and this and that is the truth. And then there's strings of back and forth dialogue like what I just posted up, where everybody's looking at it and we are judging it based on that. But this is what it is. You go on the show. If you disappear and say, you know what, I did my year on the show. Now I don't want my life out there like that, and I don't want to really do influencing like that, and I don't want to be a public figure like that. You will be left alone. Because this is what happened with Nicole. And shout out to Nicole, because, you know, Nicole is a very cool person that I've gotten to know just a little bit since the Big Brother 24 season, through messaging her and through meeting her now a couple of times. She was somebody who got overwhelmed by the post Big Brother stuff. So during this time period, she was not doing interviews. She was not really doing too many public things. She wasn't going to events and stuff like that. She was left alone. But for cast members who immediately start going to all of these reality TV parties, they post when they're on their yacht, they post when they're going on their trips, they post when they have a relationship, when they have a date, when they eat something, when they go to the bathroom. You know, it comes with the territory. It comes with the territory. Y'all know that I don't really follow any one person or people excessively. But obviously, if there are trending things that are happening during a season and there's hot button topics or people, the majority of my coverage is going to be geared towards that. And nobody complained before the off season. It's only in the off season people started complaining about that. And y'all who follow my channel know exactly what I'm talking about. It's no mystery or secret. But yeah, this is the end of my topic for this. This is my first challenge topic. I mean, I did a challenge recap. I might have done 2 challenge recaps, but basically this is my first challenge, just challenge topic live for the season. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and we will have a talk again soon. And hopefully soon I'm also going to update and refresh my intro. There's a lot of things that I'm going to change in the page, because this was kind of more geared towards my Big Brother season. And now that that's over, we're going to transition into other things. So we will talk again soon. Appreciate y'all.
So you literally were one of my very first followers. And then when you followed me and I, followed back, I was like, this dude is cool. Like,
if they say talk to your manager, you just say, you know what, talk to the hand. You don't need to be on my podcast. But yeah, dude. Yeah, you do a great job.
Thank you. I always get a kick out of talking with you on Patreon. You have a really good, view on everything.
That wasn't planned.
You know what?
Thank
but
you.
I like this Canadian.
Well,
I like this one.